How I start everyone. And we are live. Hello, everyone. We're back after a long break for Passover. And today we are with Batya, Burd, Oved. And I really have a very sweet relationship with her because she hired me to be her graphic designer, I don't know, 12 years ago. So that was really fun. She's experienced my transition, and it's been exciting. So let me introduce myself, and then she will introduce herself.
Traumatic.
What? What'd you say?
It's been traumatic because I lost you as my graphic designer, but I'm excited for you. I'm happy for you.
Yeah, it was traumatic because I enjoyed working. So I'm Rebbetzin Chen Grossman. I am a marriage coach for women in business. I love the connection between marriage and business and how marriage affects the business and all of that cool interaction there. So that is what I'm all about. You'll hear more about it as we go, but this show is really always revolving around how life affects marriage. And we come from many different angles every time. And today we're going to be talking about what it's like to have different husbands and how that affects your marriage in different ways. And hi, Nicole. Okay, so Batya, please introduce yourself. Tell everybody why you're so awesome and why they have to know you.
That's very sweet, Batya. Thank you for the introduction. So my name is Batya Burd Oved, and I had the schus of being Batya's employer for a while. I come from a Russian atheist scientific background, and I became a very good, Russian student of life, which basically means you have to learn one instrument. And you have to do dance of some kind very, very well, competitively, of course, and make a lot of money in some intellectual field. So I became a corporate lawyer. And after realizing just how empty a life of just respect and the pursuit of money is, I searched in many different places, Hollywood, India, all kinds of places, for what in the world I was doing here in life. And eventually I came to Jerusalem and found my purpose, my calling, my husband, and eventually decided to use that ambition and drive for success and meld it with my drive for spirituality and changing the world and helping the world and the Jewish people by starting an organization called westernwallprayers.org. And it basically sends Talmidei Chachamim, people in learning, very pious people in the Old City and in Jerusalem, to the Western Wall every single day for 40 days to pray for people around the world. It's a very famous segula. The word segula usually doesn't have a good connotation, but basically what it just means is something that causes something else.
Yeah, translate it into English also, because people don't know what segula is in Hebrew.
Right. So segula, many people say it's like a Kabbalistic concept, an X that causes a Y, so to speak. Some people will say if you put a brick in an oven and keep it with your challah, you can prevent someone from marrying someone you don't want. I mean, things like that. And a segula for a good interview is getting the right earphones. But really, a segula is just a thing that causes something else, something powerful you could do.
I have to just stop right here, just for my marriage to be complete. I have to say this is against everything my husband believes in. So it's very funny whenever it starts being all about, whatever. He's like, that's witchcraft or whatever, So it's really funny because there is really that very logical side, and then there is all of the things that people will do. And the way that I like explaining segulas is you're changing yourself. You're going through a process, which is why I liked working for you, because 40 days, going to the Western Wall and praying, it wasn't just, we'll pray for you, bye. The whole landing page was all about you're praying where you are and we're praying where we are. And together it's, we're really changing something where you're going through a process, a transition, a transformation within yourself while you're praying. And I've had that when part of my story is that I started praying after my 6th baby was born, and praying every single day suddenly made clarity and I was able to understand things and what does God want from me. And that's how I transitioned. That was like part of my story of transitioning. So I think it's really beautiful because it's not like magic or, some whatever scary, whatever, I don't know what. It's really you changing yourself and being able to receive in a different way.
Right. When you pray, it basically means leit palel. So that you're actually turning, you're receiving something different. And so when someone is praying for you, it's actually helping you to become different also. Not only are they praying, again, we send them a prayer that we compose for them. And the person themselves gets every single day a picture of the old city with the actual prayer and a request to pray with them. They find out who their shaliach is. It's a process that comes together. It's a connection between Jerusalem and them. And also, we ask people also to take on a mitzvah during the time, take on a good deed, something that they can do to change so that the old them that was praying before and got a no answer no longer exists. Now there's actually a new them. And so you're asking from a new place. So maybe that new person will get a different answer than the one before. But anyway, I actually find it very funny, people who say they're very, very logical, so they don't believe in the segula thing. Now, if they're very, very logical, they will believe in it because the Torah says it's true. Just like the Torah says that witchcraft is true and it's not something that we just see on Harry Potter. It really is a real thing out there. No, everyone says it doesn't exist anymore. I went to India. I could tell you it still exists. And not only that, but so if there's a dark side to something, there's also a light side. What do you think Kabbalah is? Kabbalah is changing nature, but through the holy part of being able to change nature. God gave us that power. It used to be back in the day that Kabbalists used to resurrect the dead. This is a real thing. It's scary. That's why we run away from it. But it's scary because it's real.
Right. Yeah. So, no, but I really, I like what you're doing because there is something so grounded in it. I think that, like you were saying, there's a connotation to it that people will say oh, I don't know, I'm not into that. But really, when you look at it from the inside and why I was able to really connect to it and do all that work for all those years is because I was able to really see how grounded it was, how it really is a process that somebody will go through if they're in California and somebody is praying for them here. It's not disconnected. It's not like this, okay, I'll just pay money. Somebody will do it for me and we're done. It's not like that. You're not, it's so connected. And, my business name is Connected for Real. So I'm very into connected.
They also say, in the Yom Kippur Siddur, it says that 3 things nullify a decree, right? Charity, tefillah, prayer, and tshuva, repentance. So we use all 3 things. So whether you want to call it a, charity, tshuva, repentance, or whether you want to call it a segula, it's the same thing. Plus, you're also supporting Torah scholars. You're basically trying to accumulate a lot of merit to say, God, I'm doing all of these amazing things. Please look and help me do more by giving me what I need.
Right. And actually, we're going to talk about the retreat that I do. But in the retreat, one of the days is all about connecting to God and being able to ask, because that's something that we really have a hard time doing. And I know that when you're able to really grow your vessel and learn to receive and ask for the things you need and get in touch with God on that level, then it suddenly changes everything. One day I actually had this conversation with God in the middle of prayer. I'm like, I think I haven't been fair. I've been saying all the time, oh, give me abundance, make sure that I have everything I need. But I'm not being very telling you what I really need. So listen, I really need, help to get from point A to point B. And I want you to show me the way. And that week I ended up finding the answer. It was mind blowing, but it really is amazing when you get in touch, when you're able to really connect.
God reflects you. I always say God is your mirror. Wherever you stand, he'll show you.
Right. It's amazing. Okay, so let's get into the marriage stuff. So introduce a little bit of your story, how you ended up with 3. I was going to say how you ended up with 3 husbands.
Not at the same time.
Right, exactly.
Not at the same time. Don't try this at home, folks. Okay, so the first part is really not so funny, but you got to have a little bit of laugh inside every tragedy. So unfortunately, my husband, who actually was the one whose idea it was to start Western Wall Prayers, and who was just a beautiful, beautiful human being. God needed him more than we did, I guess. And on his 40th birthday, when we were away on a romantic holiday, he actually drowned swimming. Yeah. And yours truly pulled him out of the water and had probably one of the most traumatic experiences of my life. Buried my husband within a couple of days and embarked on the journey of a widowhood, which I would not recommend to anyone out there.
It is not what you signed up for.
No, 39-year-old widow of 5 kids between the ages of 1 and 9. And I can laugh, there is life after, believe it or not, after lots of therapy, and lots of davening and lots of everything else in the world that you could feel. Thank God, actually, God put into the world a ton of resources these days to be able to get over all of the crazy things that he put into this world that we need to get over. So, he creates the refuah before the makkah. And
he also knows what which is
what you can handle. Yeah, I don't like that because everyone was like, "Oh, you must be so great. This happened to you." No, thanks. I don't want to be so great. No, I'm really not actually, because God gave this to the right. You know what? I always looked up and I said, are you sure you got the right address? Like, you think I can handle this? I cannot handle this. This must be some kind of mistake because not me, but he didn't seem to agree. So anyway, I did have a very brief post rebound marriage. How's that? In the frum world, we don't have rebound boyfriends. We have rebound marriages. That's how it works here. I was in survival mode and, pick someone that helped me survive, thank God, but not someone who I would have chosen had I been whole and stable and known who I was and been able to stand on my own 2 feet after I was just in a very, very weak position. And our perspective is very skewed when it comes to, who can help us, who can save us, who can be our lifeline after. And so I did go through a divorce, which is, wow, I also don't recommend to anyone in the frum world, especially since a lot more kudos come with being a widow. I will tell you, I have lots of charities coming to my door and lots of brachas and people asking me for brachas and just incredible respect. And the same does not hold true when you are a divorcee, and anyone out there that is a divorcee will understand what I have to say. It's sort of one of those like, let's not leave the house and keep our head down, where when I was a widow is let me not leave the house so no one asks me how I am, because I don't want to know. I just need to do what I'm doing.
I love how you said I don't want to know. It's not about I don't want to tell them. I don't even want to face myself. Right.
No, I'm not interested. I'm on do mode right now.
Right. It's just, and by the way, next week, anybody who is listening and wants to come back next week, Tuesday, same time, same place, we're having a whole discussion with an expert on child loss, which is really very similar with, the grieving process. And it's not similar because the husband is completely different, but there is such a painful thing that you have to get through. And then when you get through it and look back, you're like, oh my gosh, it made me who I am, but it's not recommended. You don't choose it. It comes to you.
Right. So they say when you lose a parent, you lost your past. When you lose your husband, you lost your present. When you lose a child, you lost your future.
Wow.
So, yeah. It's all very different types of grieving.
Yeah, that's really
and then a couple of years later, after a lot more building in every possible self-help program and finding myself in a new light, on my own in a new way. Thank God I did get married from a good place and to a great guy. So yes, I have 3 different perspectives of being a wife in business with 3 different people. And it's very, very interesting because I am the same person, sort of, kind of. And, but I've had 3 very, very different marriages and 3 very, very different experiences. And all of them, like everything in life, is really just, Hashem taking you to a new place and opening your eyes in a different way to be able to increase your perspective and appreciation for everything that life has to offer.
That's beautiful. Do you want to get into it more, like how each one affected your marriage your business differently?
So let's say, okay, I will tell you that at the very, very beginning, this whole thing was my first husband. Thanks, Jennifer. This whole thing was my first husband's idea, Western Wall Prayers. And so honestly, I was very, shoot from the hip and I've got it all together and I don't worry about it. It's all up here kind of person. And he was very much, Shiva Bacher, systems, regulated, organized, on the ground. And he looked at me and he said, where are your Excel sheets? Where are your documents? Where are your track records of all of your donors and everything they gave? I'm like, it's all up here. What do you mean? And he said, no. It goes like this. You take a program, you write it down. You have an accountant, you have a book. He took me as like this big, flowy, hippie kind of idealistic person and brought me into the real world, organized, grounded. And that kind of koach is actually not only stable, but has the stamina and the wherewithal to see ahead in the future and continue and continue and continue. So what was actually amazing about that relationship is we used to, my kids were young then, so they would go to bed at like 7 and then NASA would open. He was running a yeshiva. I was running Western Wall Prayers. That was when we had like tons of interviews from different organizations all over the world and news places. And people would laugh. We had 3 fax machines going. We were on, and what's amazing about it is I was telling you actually earlier before we started this show that I really feel when 2 people are brought together, they all of a sudden have like complete access to the other's soul without even knowing it. It's something very, very malleable. You can feel their whole energy. Just as I'm talking to you today, we have a certain synergy. You have a vibe and I flow off that vibe and you flow off my vibe. The same thing happens in marriage. And when a person is with someone who has certain kochos, has certain abilities, and has certain inspirations and talents, you kind of tap into that place and then you can use it for yourself. So where my husband was so inspired to be able to do good to the world and give out, I too tapped into that part of myself and we synergized together with it. So instead of giving to each other, which some people that is their marriage, for us, our marriage was giving to other people. And that's how we gave to each other because we were so focused outward, because that's where we got our high. That's where we got our actualization. That's where we developed our marriage, was through the business, which is not what usually happens. But because it was a business that was not just about money, it was about the Jewish people. It was about bringing light into the world. It was about building. It was, that's the way that we connected. And, our Rabbi Green says that any relationship that you have only lasts in the next world, in Olam Haba, to the extent that you did mitzvos together. Anyone you did a mitzvah with, that relationship endures in the next world. So our marriage was very much a next world kind of marriage, which is, I don't know. It is what it is. It's amazing. It's amazing that Hashem opened that opportunity up for me, but it definitely doesn't look like my other marriages.
Isn't there a book? One of the things that really inspired me was all of the, after he passed away, all the good deeds that started coming out, as like secret good deeds that he was doing. It was like, that was really inspirational. Didn't you write a book about it? Or someone wrote a book?
No, so I didn't. So his sister actually wrote a manuscript and she sent it in. And it got discovered. It got published, and then Rav Yaakov Astor, who I think is the publisher of Ami magazine, he's the one that took it over and actually published the book and wrote it to the end and edited it. So I believe it or not, I really didn't know anything about anything. It was just as shocking to me,
It's just amazing. It's beautiful that you guys were able to really connect on that level of giving and overflowing. And when you do that, it just really fills you up, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have to say, it was really just him. I really feel, and not every woman is like this, and not every woman has to be. I'm just telling you my personal experience, but I really feel connected when I'm a channel for my husband. And so this was his energy coming through, and I was just going with it. I love doing that. I love being able to, when you speak, I'm sure you feel like you're channeling Hashem's light. When I'm with my husband, I want to channel who he is into the world. And it's basically who he is just connecting to God and to his rabbis. And then that flows through me and through us. And that creates something different. So that's why it's so different depending on the husband that you're with, because everyone is so different. Right. So, when I'm with my husband now, he is so connected to being able to be inspired by Torah, by words of wisdom, connecting with children and just being them and appreciating them. And I have less of that in me. I wish I did. I happen to take care of them all day long, but I have much less of an appreciation. Really, I'm serious. I have much less of an appreciation and much less pleasure that I get just from being with them, because I have all this top end intellectual, spiritual desires. I could sit at the hotel forever and not talk to a soul. I don't need to talk to anybody. But of course, your kids want to talk to you all the time, and mommy, and they want to talk to you about things that are like not exactly, like rocket science. So it's very hard for me, stimulated and feel pleasure with Legos. It really is. But for him, it's like the most interesting thing in the world.
I always say I wasn't made to be, one of those like mommy people. I'm the same way. I'm like, I need, how did I survive COVID? By strengthening my business and like being able to lock the door and have these lives and do these things and make the retreat. Like I needed that connection with like other adults and high level consciousness type of speaking, and not like, okay, let's sit down on the floor. Now I've become a little bit more chill about that. Like I can sit on the grass and just like play with them or whatever. But I think my older ones had a different experience than the younger ones, because I had to really grow into that. So I totally relate to that.
Right. So yeah. So now, like one of my greatest pleasures is to be able to sit around with my husband and my kids and just like, enjoy each other's company and just be. And that is also me channeling him and his energy and his warmth and his, want for family life. And so it's very, very different. And actually my experience with business is very different with him, because I truthfully, I'm very much burnt out. I have to be honest. After so many years of doing something, I really have to like regenerate my energy over and over again, because I know it's so worthwhile. I had so many other opportunities to do other things throughout the last 17 years. And again, I was like, I worked in the top corporate law firm in Canada. I was on my way to, making a lot of money, doing a lot of things. And I say to Hashem, listen to me, you have to help me with this, because otherwise I'm going out there and I'm going to make money, and I know more than anything, you need me here. And, there's all these people that need jobs and et cetera, et cetera. And so he definitely helps to inspire me. And actually these days he's actually starting a business, so I'm helping him with that. And I do feel that one of the things that I really wanted to say here is, and I don't know how you say it in other episodes, in terms of like the conflict between a woman becoming successful and that potentially putting her husband into a place where he feels smaller. I think you mentioned that before, right?
Yeah.
So I actually found so many opportunities, especially in my first marriage, when I was really becoming at the very beginning of this. You think, oh, what a little, are you still doing that prayer thing? So at the very beginning of this, we actually got a lot of news interviews. I mean, Reuters, Yahoo, we were almost on CNN. We had all over Russia. Whatever. It was becoming, a big thing. And my husband wasn't yet successful. He was a yeshiva bacher who was recruiting students to a small yeshiva in the old city. And I felt that. I definitely felt that place of, am I, getting a little too big for comfort here? And I'm going to say something I never said. All of the organization, he happened to be American, all of the organization, I just channeled into his name, he became the CEO over there. All the money went into a bank account with his name on it, that he was the CEO of this company, et cetera, et cetera. So when the credit cards came, they came in his name. When accounts had to be paid to all of the amazing, beautiful, pious people in the old city, he went out and distributed all of the money to very, very needy people. I was gone. I was out of it. I might have been like straight on those news programs, but other than that, I was deep inside my office without a face. He was the face of everything. And people would thank him over and over and over again. He'd always say, no, it's my wife. It's my wife. I don't care if it's your wife. When you're out there and people are coming to you and asking you, do you mind if you like sign up my brother? He really is in need of money. And do you mind, maybe I know that someone gave a donation. Do you mind if you give it to, my uncle? He's really in struggle. And he became that guy who was giving out all of this money and all of his charity to everyone. And he became very, very big. And this is before he gave out his own charity to other people. He became a very, very big person. And that feels good. It feels really, really good to have a husband walk in feeling big, important, doing amazing things in this world. I'm not talking about the CEO of Google. I'm talking about someone who's actually going out there and helping the world and becoming a macher. And so I just want to say, I mean, everyone's in a different business, but I really feel that whatever opportunity you have to put your husband front and center with the money, with the distribution, with the name, whatever you can do will only help you in your marriage, because it's just so amazing to see your husband happier, bigger, getting the respect that they deserve. If you can, but there's definitely ways to sit and think, what can I do? Can the bank account have his name bigger than mine? What can I do to make him the bigger guy here somehow, even if it's only an appearance, and even if he knows it's coming from you, but you don't have to show him.
Right. So it's really beautiful. I'll tell you what's beautiful about this story and this example is that you did not lower yourself. You didn't dim your light. What you did was you almost hung your light, like you shone, and then you gave him the credit, which is pretty much, the way that it makes it a healthy way to do. Because what we tend to do as women is when you feel that discomfort that you were describing, so, oh my gosh, I work out of the house. Like, when I was a graphic designer, I was driving all the way to Tel Aviv, having whole day meetings, and like everybody is asking me for my advice and me for my experience and expertise and and they're all giving me free food because I'm there all day and giving me presents because, why not? And then I come home with a car full of things for, samples and things, whatever. And like I walk in the house and he took care of supper and the kids are all over the place. And it just feels like, oh boy, okay, let me just like dim myself, like chill my light, not show, not step on anybody's toes. And so it's like, what do I do now? And when a woman feels like she needs to lower herself in order to let him be the higher one, that's when you get into trouble, because you are literally, lowering and becoming less of yourself. And you think that's going to empower him. And actually what it does is the opposite. It creates this resentment. Like he feels that you're not being yourself. He feels that it's not authentic. It's not real. There's no connection. And then you feel it too. Like there's this like, ugh, And so that's where it goes bad. And that's where things start exploding, because then eventually your light is trying to come out and it's like, I gotta explode. And then poof, I'm going to go big. I'm going to make 6 figures and I don't care anymore. And I don't care if I need to lose this marriage because this is a real important thing for me. It's my passion. It's my, purpose in life, whatever. And then suddenly it's like, oh, what just happened? Like you just went out of whack. So, and I mean, I'm giving you guys examples from real life. This is what happens to the women who are like keeping themselves low. You keep it all down and then it comes up. At that point, it's too hard to figure out what to do next. And so it's like, okay, that's it. I don't care about you anymore. You just watch. And what you did was, instead of keeping yourself low, you raised him up. You gave him credit.
Make him bigger.
Yeah, you didn't have to do anything. You didn't have to work hard at, if I need to work, then, if I need to grow, then I need to do something for him to grow. No, you didn't have to do anything. All you had to do is give him the credit. Say, thank you so much for allowing me to do this. Like, one of the coolest things that happens is like, I do a retreat and then at the end of the night, I thank my husband for taking care of the kids and making the supper and being so amazing and allowing me to do this. And, it's only because of you that I can do this. And I'm a words of affirmation. So my gift is all, words, words, words. It doesn't always work because he's not words, but it is the way that I express you are a very integral part of this success and this purpose in the world. Another thing that I totally related to when you said, being a channel, my husband wrote a Haggadah, and last year we published the Hebrew edition, and it was really amazing. And this year we came out with the translation. And right after my retreat, I kept telling him, no, I first have to do my retreat, And then finally my retreat happened. And then I was like exhausted from like all of that shine, it was like 7 days of intense. And then he was like, okay, good. Now, I need to print it before Passover. And I was like, I don't have any time. And I really really jumped into it and made sure to get it done. And it was a lot of work and it was really intense, but it felt so good because I felt like I was really channeling exactly what we were saying before, like, allowing his work to come out in the world was really, and it aligns with my work. So it's not like it's conflicting. It just felt like I was able to do that for him, and it felt really good. So I was able to relate to that.
Look, as he goes up, you go up. As you go up, he goes up. You want to go down, he'll go down with you. That's just how it works. The same soul.
I love this example, but really, when we get married in the Jewish world, so in the whatever, we as Jews believe that you are one soul, and even though you're in two different bodies, you really are connected. And so I have this example of like, you have two choices, like when you go up, he automatically goes up. And now what do you do about that? So I visualize this as like going up the hill when you're working towards like 6 figures, 7 figures. I'm going to make money. I'm going to be successful. I'm going to, do my purpose. And you're walking up there and you're pretty much dragging him like dead weight because he's kicking and screaming. And then eventually when you're able to get him to support your work and to really change that dynamic, instead of dragging him, he's pushing you and you're really going up the hill together no matter what, but it's a different energy. And that's where that's really my purpose in the world, is helping people go from one to the other, to really change that up, because you're going to go up together no matter what. Like, you're going to end up in the same place at all times. It's just the attitude of how are you doing it? Are you going to do it, no matter what? I'm just you're coming along, but you're dead weight and you're holding me back. Or are we doing this together and really supporting each other through it? So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that you probably talk about this all the time, but there's a third party that's really the most important thing. And that's, even though you and your husband are together in this one soul, at the end of the day, it's really you and God, and it's really God and him. Right. And so, as anything is happening, as any friction, anything is going on, you just look back to God and you say, oh, this is what I have to learn now. Like, this is my new life challenge. This is my new life test that you've brought to me. Okay, fine. What am I going to do now? And what am I going to do with it now? And how am I going to take this now? It's not you and your husband. It's your husband is here to teach you all of these wonderful things that your soul hasn't fixed yet, And so as I went from one husband to another husband, it was very, very clear what I was supposed to fix this time around, what I was supposed to fix the next time around, and when I could just enjoy a little bit of life. So yeah, that's definitely, it's always looking at your husband, looking back to God. Okay, this is what's going on. Looking back at your husband, looking back to God. Gotcha. I hear you. Okay. And yes. It's a dance.
So when I named my business Connected for Real, so there's two parts to it. There's the connected, the really being connected. And that's when I was asking around my friends, like, what is it that I do? What is it so interesting and important? Like, that you guys come to me for advice and that's other people. Like, why? What is about me that I don't see about me? Because it's too natural for me to see. And pretty much everybody was like, you're just like whoosh connected. Like, you talk to God as if he's like, right here. And I also, so it's like connected to yourself, connected to your husband, and connected to God is like pretty much like that part. And then for real is because you can't be living in La La Land. You have to be here. You have to be in life. You have to be doing the things. You have to really be for real. You can't be faking it, or you can't be disconnected. There has to be those two parts. And And in the retreat that if you guys, I keep saying the retreat, so I'm going to give you guys the chance to sign up. It's connectedforreal.com/retreat. And it's happening April 26th. It's a 7-day free retreat. You go on Zoom once a day for an hour, and we talk about something every single day. It's amazing, epic. The last retreat we did blew people's minds away. So I'm not saying this from like, oh, look at me, I'm so cool. I'm like, my biggest fear was that people were gonna say that I'm full of myself. And I realized that I'm actually not. I'm full of God. Like, this is what I'm doing because I need to channel God. Like, I can't hold it in. So it's absolutely amazing. So day 1 is connect to yourself. Day 2 is connect to God. And day 3 is connect to your husband. And then, of course, like all the other days, sort of put it all together. But you can't live without God in your life. I don't know how people do it. So you said, like, don't forget there is another party, and yes, there is. And it's a really important one because it's what we're here for. And I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, your husband was just brought to you by God for a good reason, and that's it.
Yeah.
So you don't have to blame him. You could blame God, and then you could start to work.
Yes. And we talk about that a lot on day 3, totally, because it's so true.
Can I tell you something? I don't know, for those of you who know of Daniel Katz, I used to go to his seminars. I remember one day he said that there was a couple that had all of these problems, and the wife was complaining and the husband comes complaining, she's this, he's that. Finally they said, we can't take this anymore. We're getting a divorce. Fine. They went to divorce. They went to Beis Din. They got the get all over, Mazel Tov. The husband looks at the wife looks at the husband, or the ex-husband, and he says, okay, let's get married. She's like, what are you talking about? We just got divorced. He said, well, you weren't good enough for a first wife, but for a second wife, you're pretty good. Let's do it. Let's go get married. So I could definitely tell you that that's true. That it's just the way that it is. What you expect and get angry about with a first husband, who's the real husband of your children, all the expectations that you have of what he should do and what he shouldn't do and what he should give to you and what he should be like, get you very angry and very disappointed about, the difference between expectations and reality. And what happens in a second marriage is so many of those expectations are gone because he'll never be the real parent. So you can't really expect him to act like a real parent. You already know what life is like, single, by yourself, taking care of everybody. And anything you get is like, wow, thank God I don't have to do this alone. Thank God I don't have to make Kiddush alone. Thank God there's another person that I can actually walk out of the house. Thank God this, thank God that. Instead of, why didn't he come home 2 hours earlier? Oh my gosh, someone came home. And all of a sudden, so many of those expectations go away and you're just naturally happier in the next marriage. Now, hold on a second. There's also issues between children, et cetera, et cetera. You naturally expect less. Right. And so I can get through without having an internal fit situations that are way worse than what my friends are completely stuck in, which I used to be stuck in also because I was also a first marriage person. Right. But it's just unbelievable what just that so much of our shalom bayis issues have to do with our expectations. And so when those expectations are changed, when you put yourself in a position of someone who doesn't have, and the husband's gone, and it's all on you, and then he re-enters your life, and it's somebody new and somebody else that's come to, help you. Wow, you have a whole different set of eyes. The eyes come from appreciation first, rather than expectation. And so it's just very interesting. I also don't recommend it because it's much better to have a first husband. But if I could only have all of the lessons that I learned as a second wife to my first husband, wow, I would have just had a beautiful, happy, healthy marriage at all 24 hours a day.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? That's beautiful. Yeah. So Jasmine Star was talking about gratitude in one of her podcasts, and she said that she went to a very wise man and she said, I can't do the gratitude thing. I don't know what to be grateful for. Like, it's really hard. It's like a hard exercise because it just feels like, oh, I'm grateful I have a house and a this and a that. Like, I'm not really feeling it. So he told her, imagine that tomorrow morning you wake up and you only have the things you're grateful for today. And she's like, oh, wait. I'm grateful for my bed, for my pillow, for my blanket, for my toothbrush, for my toothpaste, for my bathroom, for my running water. And then it just started flowing because she realized, oh, and so like what you're saying is, I'm grateful for my husband. I don't care how not perfect he is and how human he is. You're like, sorry to break it to all of us, but like, we're all human, and it's a prerequisite to being in this world. So we're all going to have something that's not perfect about us. And instead of picking on it and being like, but he's not 100% exactly, to the T what I wanted, being like, I'm happy for just the fact that he's here.
Or just pretend you have no one. Just imagine, God forbid, that you didn't have anyone and what that would look like. And you don't know what that looks like until he's gone. You really, really don't, because there's so many things we take for granted in everything, including air, that you don't even realize what would be if he wasn't there. I'll never forget when my first husband, when I had my fifth baby, I think it was the first time his mother did not come to take care of the house. And at the bris, all he talked about was, oh my gosh, the first night she left, I went up to the kitchen and I saw a pot out with food. And I thought to myself, how's that pot going to get? I guess someone should, put that pot away. And all of a sudden it dawned on him, this whole area of the world that he never thought about, what do I need to do with that pot after it boils? And all of a sudden he figured out all these things that I do every night that he just never even turned his mind to. And only then could he actually even appreciate some tiny little things that were, in my world and in my head that I took care of in the house that he would never even have turned to had it not been for me not being there. And all of us wives are like that. We don't realize what it is to have a husband around, just his presence, what that does to our children, how that makes them feel safe, how that makes them feel normal. They have an Abba, period. I don't care if he's home, he's not home, he's learning, he's working. They have someone. When their friends talk about, oh, my Abba does this, they have something to say. They say, oh, well, my Abba does this. And we're always thinking, well, his father takes him swimming on Thursday nights, and his father or her husband, helps with the sponge on Friday, whatever. There's a husband. Nobody knows that anything's missing. People aren't looking at you like a nebuch because you have a house that comes together. There are so many tiny things you don't even know to appreciate about him being present in the world and you actually having a family that looks like a family, even if it looks dysfunctional from the inside. Nobody knows. Nobody has to know that. You can feel a somewhat normalcy from the fact that nobody knows you have a dysfunctional family, that you look like a normal family, just like everybody else.
Right. That's one of the things, like you were saying about, comparing also. There's something that is very interesting that happens when people are like, oh, but you're so lucky. Of course you could do all the things because your husband cooks and he cleans and he's, all so awesome. And I'm super grateful because my husband is super awesome. But like, you don't sit around and see what is actually different about our life that isn't awesome. You're not really comparing. You're just sort of like assuming. And then it's like, oh, it's not fair because you don't have to cook on Friday. Well, I do other things that he doesn't do that maybe you don't have that. So it's really interesting whenever we get into that comparison thing, it's a lose-lose. Everybody loses because the person who compares and says, oh, it's just, you have it better, they're losing. The person who people think about who has it better is sitting around thinking like, no, I have other things. So like, they're also thinking of what is missing. And it's like, not good for anyone. So I love that you brought that up. Just like, from both sides, that when we can even just look at ourselves from the outside and say, wow, we have something that looks like a family, which says, is a lot already.
Even if there are a lot of people who stay in marriages just to have the appearance of a family, even though they don't have a marriage, because that actually gives you something.
Right. Yeah.
Just that. But I have to say, in terms of the comparison thing, my neighbor said something very, very smart. She's like, nobody can look at me and say, oh, I wish I had your apartment. She's like, no. You can't just take my apartment. You have to take my whole life if you want my apartment. Hashem didn't just give me my apartment. He gave me my apartment, just like he gave me my sick husband, just like he gave me my, hard upbringing, just like he gave me this. He wouldn't have given me the apartment without all of these other things. So if you want the apartment, you also have to take everything else that I have. Do you want that?
And also
maybe you don't want the apartment.
The process of getting the apartment, sometimes like we do believe that you can have, like you don't have to have bad things in order to have good things. Like you deserve good because God loves you and wants to give you. And so you can have a beautiful apartment and you can have a beautiful life and you can have a, successful whatever. And like you can have it all. But, it comes at a process, that you had to go through and become somebody, because that's what it's, this whole there's a word I'm looking for, but like, an obstacle course. That's what it is. There's a whole obstacle course that we have to go through in order to become who we are. And we had to go through it. And so if at the end we actually get the thing and we're like, wow, this is amazing. It was so worth it. Look at how much I was able to, become and be, and just like, wow. And then you look back and it's all of that garbage that made you who you are. And they would never have taken it. Like they would never have chosen that path. So that's just, it's not fair no matter what, either way. It's like, don't compare.
Yeah, it's useless anyway. It's not going to change anything. So it'll just make you miserable. I've actually learned that the less you think about things you don't have control, the happier you are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. If you can't control
don't think about it.
Leave it alone.
Yeah.
That's, in Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he has those circles of like the things I am concerned about, the circle of concern and the circle of influence. And I can only influence the things that I can control. And the more I can influence the things I can control, the bigger that circle gets. And the more I can, have, the more I'm concerned with. But if you're just concerned with things you can't control, then you're just outside of your, control, basically.
I believe they call it anxiety and stupidity, but yeah, we all have it.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. Okay. So we are nearing the end. And if anybody else wants in the comments to ask a question or say anything, now is a wonderful time to write to us. And if you're watching the replay, you can do #replay and ask a question. We'll try to get to it. You can also tag us. And tell everyone where they can find you or how they can get in touch with you or what you're up to next. Because, you are doing cool things, even though you think you're tired.
I'm so tired, but I am, I do have to say that I absolutely love speaking. I used to actually fear it because I was always nervous that it would give me an ego, just like you were saying. I was always nervous. I'm like, how can I speak when I'm spending so much time in the spiritual world trying to get closer to God? And in order to do that, I need humility and I need to, get myself out of the limelight. And so the more that I'm going to speak, maybe, the bigger that I'll get, the more ego I'll have. And that's going to take me away from God. And I want to go closer to God. But I realized, and that's where my present husband comes in, thank God, that he's such a clear channel for Torah inspiration. And he so wants to go out there and speak. He used to be a Kiruv rabbi because he just wants to share the goodness. Just like you want to share the apple pie that you have or the cake that you have or the money that you have. He just wants to share God's Torah because it's just so amazing. And so I feel like I can more tune into his purity and his innocence and his genuineness also, that I'm not as scared that it's going to be about me. I don't need it at all to be about me. So I want to give out. I feel that Hashem has put all of us through so many things and brought us, all different sparks of different places that he wants us all to share. We have all this, look at what we have now. We have this Instagram and YouTube. I mean, it's not just to show the vacation that we're on, it's to share each of our life with everyone else, that otherwise we wouldn't have been created. We wouldn't have been necessary, just like everyone, just like the men, when they learn Gemara, they learn from different perspectives and they try to stretch their brains to be able to get into someone else's head. Why? They have their own, because there is a greater consciousness that comes from being able to see other people's perspectives all at the same time. What is God? God is everything. God is all the colors all together become white. You know what I'm saying? So, but you need all of those colors all together, and then it comes to the source. So we are all the colors of the rainbow and the world and the spectrum giving out so that we can all reach that oneness. And, thank you, Nicole. So anyway, so I'm not so afraid to speak anymore. I'm not afraid that it's going to be about me, although Bli Ayin Hara B'Zrat Hashem, no. So I want to get out.
This is the who am I to speak? And the answer is, who are you not to speak? If God gave you all of these gifts and all of these abilities and the stories and the things and the way and the ability and your mouth and your voice and like, who are you not to do it? Like, God put you here on this earth to do your job. Like, this is what I had to go through, right? Like, I'm sitting here, I'm telling you, I'm full of God. Like, I am not here to share how awesome I am, even though I am awesome. But my awesomeness comes from that connection, that ability to really channel. So who are you not to do it? You standing around
right.
saying like, oh God, I think you've got a mistake. I'm not the right person. Like, it doesn't work like that. He put you here to do this.
Right.
For you to do your job.
And I look at it as your awesomeness is not your awesomeness. It's God's awesomeness.
Right.
You're a creation of God. You're not saying anything about yourself. You're saying how amazing God's creation is, which is you. You're complimenting God when you're saying how great you are. So there's no disconnection. There's no separation. There's just you are the creation that God, when you look at a painting, you don't say, what an amazing painting. You say, what an amazing artist that painted that painting. The painting has no significance of its own. It just came out of the mind and the hand of the person that painted it. And so I think that's very, very, I think that's very important. So anyway, so I'm doing some Zoom speeches here and there, and I'm doing in-person speeches on Emunah and understanding suffering. And a lot of it comes through, the different experiences that I had. And thank God, I think it really raises people up. It really, really does. And oftentimes it raises me up because, you just become a channel for whatever people need to hear. And then it goes through and you're like, wow, that was an interesting thought. That sounds great.
Always.
Yeah. So it's amazing. Yeah, it's an amazing connective experience. If you can find out there something that you do that actually makes you feel bigger than what you are because you've channeled in some of God's light into the world, that is the greatest pleasure that you can get. And that is your Yehu. That's, the self-actualization top of Maslow's chart, if you're, speaking in psychological terms. And that's what Hashem created us to do. So if you want to book me for a share, I would be honored to be your guest for Emunah, Understanding Suffering. And of course, definitely, when you need tefillos, come to us, westernwallprayers.org. We literally have some of the holiest people in the world who literally I would like kiss their shoes if it wasn't, not tznius. And I wish I could be anything like them. I'm just so happy to be a part in any of their Torah by providing them with a place at the Kotel to daven for you at westernwallprayers.org. Thank you. Or Burd, B-B-U-R-D. Yeah, you're very prepared, at westernwallprayers.org. Or you can catch me on Facebook, Batya Burd Oved.
I love that. By the way, the thing that came up for me, and I didn't want to interrupt you, is the moon and the sun. Like, I really feel like I'm a reflection. I'm not, the light isn't coming from me. And that those are all things that, by the way, you guys think like, oh, she's a natural. No, like, you really have to go through these things. You have to go through these mindset issues and fix them and figure it out and find the answers, because you don't just wake up one day and are like really awesome at making lives. I had to go through like being scared of speaking in public, and what are people going to think of me, and what are they going to say, and what if I don't know, and all of these things come up, and you have to deal with them, and that's how you grow. And so they don't mean that you just like give up and say, oh, it's not for me. You become somebody. And I think with the retreat that I did, I actually became that like, oh my gosh, like I just became a leader, and it like caught me by surprise. And I said it at the retreat. I'm like, you guys all did me the favor. I know that I gave you a lot, but like, whoa, I blew my mind how much came out and how eloquently it came out from a person who is scared of speaking in public and used to shake and was like, I can't do this. I had to go through so much. And it really is one of those amazing things that if you are, if you allow it in, it will show you, God will show you the way and clarity and just like guide you through it. It's amazing. So everybody should go sign up for my retreat. Yeah.
I'm wowed. I want to say I'm not there yet. I wish one day I would be at a place where I can do what you're doing right now. It takes so much gumption and courage and kol hakavod.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that's
you really deserve it.
Thank you. I think that's one of the things that I'm feeling called to do, is why I started the retreats, is really to, gather the people around me and like do this thing, like show other people what I did and what to do, because I had to go through all of that business and design and branding and all of that stuff. Like, so I have the technical and the business, and then I have the marriage and the wisdom, and it's like being married right now in the retreat. So it's really interesting. Yeah. And some Nicole says
go higher and higher.
Oh, okay. So what is one practical thing that you want to leave everyone with so that they can really just get fired up and moving forward?
Don't let anyone stop you from doing what you want to do. At the end of the day, if you're doing the right thing, they will thank you. That's it. I don't know why I came up with that. Someone out there needs to hear that, because that's the last thing I thought I was going to say, but that's okay.
It's all from him. Before I go live, I ask for guidance and I say, with God's help, we'll succeed, because I have no idea how these lives are going to go. And they always end up amazing. So it's such a pleasure having you. Thank you so much for coming. I feel so grateful. Make sure you come back next week if you are watching, and if you're not watching, it's all good. Next week, we are going to be talking about child loss, and it's going to be pretty awesome, because the person who I have invited is actually really positive and really happy. So I think that is really fun to see how she, was able to grow from it and become the person she is without having to lose herself, which is why I also like you, because you're able to laugh and you're able to smile and tell the story. Yes, it's tragic, and yes, you didn't sign up for it, but at the end of the day, you're able to connect to God and say, I guess this is what you wanted, so let me, play along and sort of just go with the flow, and I trust that it's going to take me somewhere. So
right. I also want to say, just to validate the people who aren't quite there, that I also was very broken. I had my on times and I had my broken times, and the broken times really didn't look very good. So, like you said, connected for real can only happen if you are real. And that means if you really, really acknowledge all of the pain that you're going through, and you really acknowledge all the brokenness, and that's the only way to put it back together. So you can be in a place where you're very clear that Hashem is with you. You're very clear that all the pain is from Hashem, and you're still very, very in pain. It's not a kol l'tova. It's, I know a kol, everything is from you, and I know this is right for me, and I know I'm supposed to learn something from this, and I'm going through the pain also.
Yeah. So
I'll get out of it through you.
You can't bypass pain. You have to go through it, and you have to feel it, and you have to grieve, and you have, we have the 7 days of mourning, and you have to mourn. They don't give you a choice. You have to go through the motions, and you have to feel your feelings. And if you don't, it will come back to bite you. So it really is, it's important that you brought it up. Even if you're not mourning something that is, such a huge loss, like, I don't know, just, nobody signed up for my program, I feel really broken. Like, that's okay too. And it took me, for a loop. the last time that happened, and I had like a whole 2 weeks of like, I don't have any energy to do anything, and I can't deal with this. Like, what do you want from me? Like, I did all this work for nothing type of feeling. And that's okay too, you know? So like, don't think that something gigantic has to happen for you to feel pain. You can feel pain for anything, no matter what, and it's your pain and you're feeling it. And the only way through it is through it. You can't bypass it. There is no avoiding it. And so I really love that you brought that up, because it's part of the process. You can't be happy without sadness, which, by the way, is like one of the biggest takeaways from the movie Inside Out. It's a really beautiful
Oh, I
movie.
never saw that.
Oh, it's so cute. It's like all animated, and there's like
I
happy
heard.
and sad and whatever. And the takeaway is that you cannot be happy, happy, happy and try to like push away sadness. Sadness has to go through the motions, and then you can be happy for real, you know? So I really like that you brought that up. Thank you everyone for listening. Come back next week and we will see you next time.